even when we think things can't get any worse than this of WWE, we get a night like tonight. I gotta say one thing, guys, and this was just pathetic. Really, in all retrospect, the ending of this show was pathetic but also cool at the same time. The main event was a complete and utter failure. Outside of Becky Lynch coming into the ring and saving her boyfriend Seth Rollins from getting screwed over by Lacey Evans, who in the beginning of the night, the very first match, had her match against Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. I'm going to go on record and say this. This is by far the worst fucking creative ideas I have ever seen in my life. You could have had at least... I felt so bad for Seth Rollins and even Baron Corbin, for that matter, for the chance that they were receiving from this crowd, and it was deservingly so for them to do this. I mean, you go ahead and you have a special guest referee. You have Paul Heyman being somewhat hinted to the audience in the beginning of the show that there could be a possible cash-in. Once again, continually hinting, teasing, poking at the audience that there's going to be some kind of cash-in by Brock Lesnar, and yet there is no cash-in whatsoever. I have never seen so much teasing and hinting and giving clues of a Money in the Bank winner so much on a show of any sort, Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, or anything of that matter in my life. I mean, I've seen it done, but not as much as this. This is overexposure at its max. I don't quite understand the mentality here. I don't get it. It really just, like I said before, last month, or last pay-per-view, I said Brock Lesnar is going to cash in and fail, and I think that's where this is going to lead to at some point. It's just, when is that going to happen? That's my question. And it's going to be on Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins, I believe, is going to retain the title regardless. And quite frankly, why were they thinking a special guest referee would have been the thing for what they were trying to accomplish here? There was no possibility of Brock Lesnar showing up and cashing in on Seth Rollins or anything like that. Why have Paul Heyman there in the first place? Just to tease us and fuck with us some more, getting our hopes up and then burying us completely with what we think might happen? I mean, even just Brock Lesnar trying to attempt to cash in and failing, that would have been okay. At least we got some kind of idea that he was attempting to cash in on Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins managed to escape. But to provide us a clue that Paul Heyman is there and that Brock may cash in was fucking ridiculous. But once again, WWE providing the bullshit and giving us that bait and switch mentality that they keep providing, and eventually it's going to run out to the point where people are just not going to care, even if Seth Rollins retains the title and beats Brock Lesnar. Or vice versa, if Brock Lesnar wins. It's not going to be shocking. There's not going to be anything entertaining about it. Just like this main event was not entertaining outside of Becky Lynch's interference on Lacey Evans. Yes, Lacey Evans, the fucking special guest referee. The choice of Baron Corbin. I mean, of all things, they could have maybe picked, I don't know, Brock Lesnar. That would have been interesting. Paul Heyman. Anybody. Lacey Evans. They give the main event spot to Lacey Evans to special guest referee a main event world championship match. I am so sorry to Seth Rollins. His championship run is a complete and utter failure, and it's not on him. Baron Corbin, he was fucking mistreated completely. Even though I don't really care for Baron Corbin, he was placed in a shitty situation that doesn't help him build him up into a main event status type performer. At whatsoever. I mean, they continuously fail and fail and fail. When does the fail stop? And when does the succeeding begin? Because I'm not seeing it. Now, one bit of success that I saw here tonight that was great was Samoa Joe and Ricochet for the United States Championship. My God, that was an outstanding matchup. I really enjoyed watching that match. That was a Indies type classic matchup between Samoa Joe and Ricochet, and they were great together. They have great chemistry in the ring. They perform very well together, and the match kept me on my toes. I think that this match was probably by far the best match on the card tonight and stole the show altogether. And Ricochet actually wins the U.S. Championship, which shocked the hell out of me when it happened. So, kudos to WWE for that match. The Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. What a complete and utter failure of a match. I don't care anymore about Alexa Bliss. Bayley comes across like a real piece of garbage in this matchup as well. I didn't like either one of them. They were completely and utterly boring. If there was one key word to describe this show, it was boring. There's no life to it. There's no drive to anything that's going on in this company. There's no will or desire. This show is just completely flat. It's like a heartbeat. The heartbeat line is fucking flat. It ain't going up and down like it's supposed to. It's just meh. That's what this fucking company basically is. There is nothing going on in WWE at this point that screams for me to want to watch. I literally almost did not watch Stomping Ground whatsoever, and I haven't even been watching the week-by-week episodes leading up to this event, and I just didn't care. I really don't. I don't care what's going on in WWE. I sat through this entire event. There was some really good matches. There was some pretty decent matches, but nothing really screamed at me to get off my feet and scream to the top of my lungs for a guy that I want to cheer for. The only thing that got me screaming was the U.S. Championship match and the Universal title match, and that's only because the Universal title match was just complete and utter failure of a matchup until the ending. I just think it was garbage overall. Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans. Take Lacey Evans and get her the fuck off television and put her back down in NXT and get her to learn what the fuck, how to wrestle, really. She almost tripped on her fucking face walking to the ring as a special guest referee tonight, which was really sad in itself. Basically doing a Titus O'Neil reenactment almost, and she was just walking instead of running, which is even worse. There was people chanting AEW at that fucking match for the Universal title. When you get AEW chants in the fucking arena, when you get Daniel Bryan chants, who actually wrestled earlier on in the show, and you get CM Punk chants in fucking Washington, the state of Washington, getting CM Punk chant, who is not part of doesn't live in Washington at all or was born there, you got a serious fucking problem. And of course, it's already been stated on multiple occasions, and this company is just a complete and utter disgrace. That's all there is to it. Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans, a flat match, 2.5 out of 5 stars. Becky Lynch retains her title. There was a tag team matchup, the New Day with Big E and Xavier Woods versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This matchup was good. I mean, it was really entertaining matchup, but the problem with it was it did not belong on this card. This match belonged on a Raw or SmackDown episode. That would have been a really good match for a televised wrestling match. This match did not belong on a pay-per-view. I'm sorry. This did not fit the pay-per-view card, in my personal opinion. If you guys disagree with me, leave a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to answer back on that. But my personal opinion, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the New Day with Big E and Xavier Woods did not belong on a fucking pay-per-view at all. I mean, if you wanted to put it on the fucking pre-show, you could have done that, but I really don't agree with that either, because these are pretty decent named stars that we're talking about here. So being on a Raw or SmackDown episode for a tag team matchup would have been fine and dandy in my personal opinion. But on a pay-per-view card, no. I don't agree with that. That was televised type wrestling shit that you could have put on there. From there we had the U.S. Championship matchup, which I already stated. Ricochet wins that title. Later on in the show, you see him taking photographs with the U.S. title on his shoulder, and the Good Brothers, or I shall call them the Club, because that's really what they should be called, were with him and trying to take pictures with him on top of that. And then AJ Styles comes in, and they're kind of like doing the club deal and doing the NWO Bullet Club type deal with the Wolfpack sign bullshit. And AJ Styles comes out of nowhere and says, "I'll see you out there tomorrow, champ." Which, are we getting a hinted match between Ricochet and AJ Styles for the U.S. title? I don't know why we would have him revert to the U.S. Championship, which he said he was interested in trying to capture the Universal Championship later on during the year. So I don't quite understand that, but that should lead to a really great match that, personally, I think should be the fucking main event of a pay-per-view. If you want to get technical, some of these undercard matches are more for the main event of a pay-per-view than the fucking world title matches. That's how fucking pathetic it's gotten. That's just my personal opinion. Then we have the SmackDown Tag Team titles with Rowan and what's his name? And Daniel Bryan, who got a standing ovation in his hometown, which he deserved. He seemed very happy about the chants. He was smiling throughout most of the matchup. He seemed like he was coming across as the old Daniel Bryan when he was a face. And they were facing Heavy Machinery. Heavy Machinery. I forgot to state my stars. The Kevin Owens, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Big E and Xavier Woods. I give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a solid, good tag team matchup. The U.S. Championship, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very solid, great matchup. Got you right off your feet and having you entertained from beginning to end. Samoa Joe was a fucking beast in the ring, and Ricochet just squeaked by the skin of his teeth. But he managed to pull the victory out of his hat, and he got the U.S. Championship, which I was very happy for him. I think he should have gotten the match at a bigger pay-per-view like SummerSlam, but at the end of the day, him picking up a victory by himself with Samoa Joe with a singles championship on the line, I thought was really cool. He's doing a lot more than his previous tag team partner, Aleister Black, who just keeps doing promos in a fucking studio somewhere. So, whatever the case may be is what it is, but this matchup was the show stealer of the night. Definitely stole the show. And definitely like this matchup the most out of everything else. But the tag team matchup for the SmackDown tag titles, I'd have to say, is probably like the third best match on the card. This matchup was pretty solid in itself. It was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Heavy Machinery had a decent championship matchup opportunity that I don't think they squandered or anything. I just think they need to go back to the drawing board and maybe do a little bit better than what they have done, than what they did here. They've done a lot better in the past in NXT. If they start bringing back to what they were doing before, I would be pretty satisfied with their performances, but this performance they put on was not as good as something that they've done in their previous works in NXT. So, definitely, it wasn't horrible or anything. Definitely a lot better than fucking Lacey Evans. So, not discrediting them, I just think they might be a little bit rusty since they weren't used hardly at all on the WWE main roster to begin with, so they might have lost some of their chemistry and some of just what they've done in the ring before. But that's just my personal opinion. But this matchup was not horrible at all. It definitely was in the top 3 best matches on the card for tonight, so I have no complaints on that. Bayley and Alexa Bliss, as already mentioned, I thought this match was a travesty and absolute boredom. They have no chemistry. They feel flat, and it just had nothing going for it. Bayley won and retained her championship. Alexa Bliss showing her true colors still. There's no character change going on with Alexa Bliss, which makes her even more dull and boring. This whole gimmick about coffee, but not, and still being the same Alexa Bliss, being a fucking complete dick. I was kind of figuring at this point they kind of go in a direction of like Alexa Bliss becoming a psychopath like Nikki Cross, and them becoming a tag team and winning tag team gold and getting the fucking Moronics from being champions and put it on a real team that they've formed with these two women and give them something to do, because Alexa Bliss challenging the SmackDown Women's Championship, kind of stupid when she works on Monday Night Raw. Unless you're going to officially say there's no brand split. So that in itself made it fucking stupid. This match was a 2 out of 5 stars. Bayley didn't seem like she was all that into this matchup either. She didn't really put on her A game at all. She just kind of went through the motions here and just played along. And that was pretty much it. This matchup was nothing entertaining whatsoever. Pretty much after the WWE Tag Team Championship match, this show went right down the fucking shitter. That's the truth. I believe right after that was, I believe it was, I'm trying to remember. I'm hoping I'm not skipping anything here. I know Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre come up. There's some other match I'm not remembering off the top of my head, which is not a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a problem. Anyway, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns' match comes up. This matchup was complete and utter garbosia. Like, crap to the max. There was fans chanting, "This is boring." This match went on way too long than it needed to be, and I just was bored out of my fucking mind. Once again, another boring ass match by WWE. This matchup was another 2 out of 5 stars. It was the same old shit. Only this time it was like the Super Showdown and WrestleMania match mixed together in a spill of fucking interferences by Shane McMahon and the complete boredom of what we saw at WrestleMania 35. WrestleMania 35. When we saw WrestleMania 35 and we saw the fucking boring ass match between Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, that's what we got to see here. Plus the interferences from like what we saw at Super Showdown, that is what we got here. Even with a fucking drop kick from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring, could not put away Roman Reigns. Do I have to say more? That didn't put away Roman Reigns. Drew McIntyre eats another loss, and he is just a bitch to Roman Reigns. That's it. This was a fucking travesty in itself. Drew McIntyre should have won this matchup and walked away victorious, looking strong. Instead, once again, he's just a fucking errand boy for Shane McMahon and part of the Roman Reigns agenda. That's it. Simple as that. Drew McIntyre will never get to that main event status. You need to build fucking new stars to get this show off the ground, and they're not doing that. Roman Reigns should be jobbing out to younger stars who haven't been at the top of their game yet. Drew McIntyre had that capability in two separate occasions. Two separate occasions at two major... Well, Stomping Grounds wasn't a major event, but who's fucking cares? This was an opportunity for Drew McIntyre to cement his name in WWE and get himself into a main event type status role with the company, and instead they're just holding him back still. To do what? To have another matchup tomorrow with him and Shane McMahon versus Roman Reigns. A handicap match. And I wonder who's going to win that one. I don't know. Probably Roman Reigns picking up the victory and beating Drew McIntyre again. Because I believe full-heartedly the Roman Reigns agenda is involved with Shane McMahon winning the WWE Championship from Kofi Kingston, and then Roman Reigns beating Shane McMahon to revenge his loss from Super Showdown and winning the WWE title. That's the big idea. This company's got a lot of problems, a lot of issues. They have no creative idea. They have no creative direction. They have no connection with the audience whatsoever. The audience, after a certain point, completely got bored of this product, this show in itself, and did not care. As well as I did. I really can't deny that this was just a fucking train wreck after the WWE SmackDown tag titles. There was nothing more to look at here. This show just had nothing to it. And I really didn't care for it. There was nothing to the show that I cared about. From there, I believe there was just the two World Championship matches. The WWE Championship match was the second best match on the card. I have to admit that. This matchup had good storytelling. There was some kind of storytelling in this match. For example, the ending is really where they portray the storytelling in this match. The whole point of this freaking matchup in the first place was Dolph Ziggler saying, "It should have been me! It should have been me at WrestleMania! Winning the WWE..." What a fucking... They made him sound like a whining bitch. And at the end of the day, they still would not put the belt on this guy. But the way they ended it, even though they didn't put the belt on him, they did it in such a fucking amazing ending. The ending is where you're showing Dolph Ziggler hands down on the floor with the door open from the cage, and he's about to get his feet out while he rolls himself onto the floor. And Kofi Kingston sees that and he says to himself, why bother trying pulling him in when I can just leap the fuck out of here and get right on the floor before he will, because he's so fucking dumb. He doesn't realize that I could possibly jump out of the ring and win the match. And that's exactly what Kofi Kingston did. He leaped right out of the ring, landed on his back, and his feet hit the ground, and that was the end of the match. He wins. The matchup itself, in-ring action-wise, very solid action. Have no complaints on that. I give the matchup a 4 out of 5 stars. The ending had a very strong finish to it. I did enjoy that. I liked how they really portrayed a lot of the push and drive by both men trying to work their asses off to win this matchup. It was 10 times better than their matchup at Super Showdown. Really did not have any major complaints of this matchup whatsoever. It did have its points where it was kind of boring. They did work a lot on Kofi Kingston's legs, mostly his ankle. And then Kofi Kingston worked on Dolph Ziggler's ankle and trying to get him to be weak. Now that, when I say that part, it kind of weakens the idea of the ending, because Kofi Kingston is supposed to be selling ankle injury, which should slow you down from leaping out the door, which I didn't really do. Now granted, this is WWE we're talking about. You do realize that. This is the shit show. The show that makes no sense. The show that doesn't meet logic. It doesn't believe in logic. It doesn't believe in anything. Hell, if it was up to Vince McMahon, he would take away the rules of gravity and let people float. Who the fuck knows? I'm just spitting bullshit just to spit bullshit right now. Anyway. Point being is that this matchup was a far better matchup than anything on this card outside of the U.S. Championship match. If anything, this match should have been the main event, because this matchup had a reason to have a steel cage match. There was an outside interference, which thankfully, I am so thankful to WWE to making the steel cage be what it is. Something that holds interferences out of the match. There was no interference. There was no New Day standing there outside the steel cage trying to cause a distraction to Dolph Ziggler. There was no shenanigans that happened at this matchup. This was clearly just a clean-cut, straight-to-the-point matchup between two guys, and one of them pulled out the victory. That's it. Simple as that. And I respect that for them. And it made the steel cage seem legitimate, in my eyes at least. So, kudos for WWE on that part. Now, back to the Universal Championship. As I already mentioned, we're supposed to be getting an announcement by Baron Corbin who is going to be the special guest referee. And we find out it's supposed to be Lacey Evans, who earlier had a match with Becky Lynch. The entire matchup was a complete bore fest. Fucking Lacey Evans was doing the typical style partial referee, trying to get Baron Corbin that despicable win that would not get him any credibility whatsoever, nor does he care how he gets the win, as long as he gets a win and wins the Universal title, which is fine. And he's playing the heel role, so that makes sense. But point being, Lacey Evans being the special guest referee just was disgusting. I really don't understand that. I don't know where she gets the opportunity to be in a spot with the main event. Made no sense to me. Personally, what would have made sense is to prevent anything for, like, screw-ups by the referee, they could have simply just made this a last man standing match or an I Quit match. That would have been suitable for a matchup like this. Now, granted, the show is called Stomping Grounds, not Extreme Rules, but still at the end of the day, this matchup, this pay-per-view is called Stomping Grounds. So, when you think of Last Man Standing or you think of I Quit, you're talking about beating your opponent to a pulp. And those two matches could apply to the theme of this pay-per-view, which would have made perfect sense to initiate that matchup type with these two guys. An I Quit or a Last Man Standing match would have been suitable for something like this. And instead, they give us this boring-ass, retarded, redundant bullshit we've seen before in special guest referee matchups, and we got what we got. A complete and utter bore fest where the fans were unhappy, us at home were unhappy. We're saying to ourselves, we sat here all this time, and all we get is Lacey Evans as a special guest referee, not a Paul Heyman or a Brock Lesnar, even though that would have made no sense whatsoever. But if I had to choose between Brock Lesnar and Lacey Evans, I think I'd take Brock Lesnar. I would leave a little bit more intimidation factor. It would have Seth Rollins a little concerned about his title reign in general, with him being concerned about Brock Lesnar beating the shit out of him, causing him to lose his title altogether, and then him also having to worry about Baron Corbin at the same time. It would have been so much entertainment involved in this. There would have been more. I feel as if there would be a little bit more storyline telling driven purpose in that situation if they had Brock Lesnar as a special guest referee. But at the end of the day, if you want to play it safe and go with the safe bet that people would have been entertained by this, I would say the Last Man Standing or I Quit match. But if you're going to go with a special guest referee matchup, it should have been Brock Lesnar on account of the fact of creating that concern. Is Seth Rollins going to lose his title? Is he going to walk away with Brock Lesnar being considerate? Well, he wouldn't have been considerate. What the fuck am I talking about? It'd have cost him the fucking title, and he would have had to figure out a way to overcome Baron Corbin and then also worry about trying to overcome Brock Lesnar later on, or getting rid of Brock Lesnar in the middle of the matchup and getting the fuck out of there as quickly as possible to keep his title in his grasp. So that's just my personal opinion. That's my review here. This matchup here was like a 1.5 out of 5 stars. If it wasn't for Becky Lynch coming in the middle of this matchup, causing to even out the score here, I would have given it less than a 1, a half a star. This was a piece of shit fucking main event I have ever seen in my life. Probably by far the worst main event on any pay-per-view I have seen in my entire life. Yes, even worse than Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe at Backlash of 2018. That was pretty bad in itself. People were already leaving the show before the match even ended. But this matchup, guys, this was a fucking joke and a half. Makes Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe's match at Backlash in 2018 look like a fucking 5-star classic. Anyway, guys, hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to this channel. And leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you on that. And I thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great night. Bye.